Okay, so today we're going to learn about the topic of angles. But before we go to the angle itself, let's start by learning the elements that form an angle. So the first one is I'm going to start with explaining these three things, which are lines, line segments, and rays. So basically, they're just lines, but there are a couple of differences between these three. So I'm going to start. Okay, the first one is line. A line is a straight path that goes in two directions without ending. So if you see a image like this one here, and you can see that this is like just a straight line, right? And but it has two arrows in here, right? Going to each of the end. If you continue, it means that this line here is going forever to the right side and to the left side, both of the ends. Okay, so we can just like make this, right? It means that it's going to go forever. And let's name that. Let's say I have a point on the left side of this monitor here. I have A, and then we have B. So which means that this line is what we call the name of this line is line AB because this line going through point A and point B. Okay, so name is with AB. So we can write this down as line AB, it's like LINE or you can just write it down as this symbol here. So if you see AB in here and then you see that there is a what do you call it? So this sign here on the top. So this is the symbol for line. So if you see AB and then we have this symbol here, so this is read as line AB. Okay, so the next one is ray. So ray is actually basically just the same like a line, but previously we don't have any beginning and end point, right? Although it passes through point A and B, but actually they don't have any end point or beginning point because they goes on forever, okay, for both ends. But for ray, it has a beginning point and goes on forever. So instead of making two direction going to both of the end, this one is just one arrow sign. Okay, whether it's going to the other end, on the right end, or the left end, is just yeah the same thing. So, but notice that if it has only one direction like this, and the other end is just a point, it means that this is what we call a ray. Okay, so this is going to be the beginning point, right? And this is going to be going forever, right? Going that way. So in here, let's say I have this beginning point as point C, and let's say I have another point in which the ray goes through, which is point D, and that is what we call ray CD. Okay, so the previous one has two arrow sign, right, going to both of the end. As you can see that it doesn't have this one doesn't is not an arrow. If it isn't arrows, then it is a line, but this is not an arrow, so it's just like a point, and it goes that way to the right side, and then it has an arrow. It means that this is read ray CD. Okay, the next one is what we call the line segment. And in line segment, the difference is that this has a beginning and end point. Okay, the previous one, line, doesn't have any beginning and end point, while ray has a beginning point but doesn't have an end point. But line segment has both. Okay, has a beginning and end point. So it's just like if you cut a line and then you have that portion of line. This is what we call the line segment. So here we go. We don't have any arrows, right? On the left, on the right side, on both of the end. And let's say I have this as point E and this is point F. So both of these points are the beginning and the end point of this line segment. So we call this EF. Write down the two points that which the line segment passes through, which is the beginning and end point. And then write down the line on the top as like that. Okay, like this sign over here. Okay, so this is read line segment EF. So we go to the main topic, which is about angles. So for this lesson, you will learn to classify angles as acute, obtuse, right, straight, or reflex. So basically, there are five types of angles in which it related to the measurement of that angles. And here we go. So basically, what is an angle? Two rays that share the same endpoint form an angle, right? And then the point where the rays intersect is called vertex of the angles, and the two rays are called the sides of the angle. So basically, the angles can be formed not just from two rays; it can also be formed by two lines or two line segments. Right? But in this lesson, we will start learning about angles in which it is formed from two rays. Okay, so here are some examples of angles. So as we can see here, we have these two rays which has the same endpoint or the same what we call the vertex. Okay, if I go to this angle here, right, guys? So as you notice that we have two rays in there. Let's say I have this point here. Let's name this point with A maybe, and then we have another point in here B, and we have another point in here which is C. So basically, these are ray AB and ray AC. But because they share the same of endpoint or same beginning point here, which is A, so they form what we call angles in here, right? So basically, the angles is not just this one. Actually, we have another angle, which is this one here, which we're going to learn about it later. Okay, so these are just some examples of angles, okay? Okay, we can identify an angle by using a point in each ray and the vertex. So the angle below may be identified as angle ABC or as angle CBA. You may also see this as written as ABC or as CBA. So as you can see here, we have two rays in which they share the same beginning point. That same beginning point is point B in this angle, okay? So this one here. So this is what we call the vertex, okay? So remember that the vertex is the same endpoint or the same beginning point of two rays or two line segment. The vertex here is actually the same endpoint or same beginning point from two rays or two line segment. So in this case, this one, the B point B is what we call the vertex. Okay, and as you can see, when you want to name this angle, you can name it as ABC angle, or you can name this as CBA angle. Okay, so we can use like this symbol here, or you can just write down angle like ANGLE, right? Angle ABC or angle CBA. So what you need to pay attention is when you name an angle, the middle letter should be the we call the vertex. Okay, so in here, as we know that in this angle, the vertex is B, right? So you notice that the B is in the middle, right? There we go. If you name this with, let's say, I name this with ACB, the angle that corresponds, it means that if this is the case, then the vertex is not B anymore, this is going to be the C, in which in this image, the vertex is not the C, right? So this is going to be incorrect. So this is the main information that you should always remember that when we measure angles, we use like tools such as like protractor, right? And when we measure, it means that it needs to have a size, right? It needs to have a unit. Let's say you want to measure distance. It can be meters, it can be kilometer, it can be centimeters, so on and so on. It has different kind of units, right? As for angles, we measure it in degrees. So actually we have another unit which is like radian, but we're not going to discuss about that. We're going to use degree for this angle measurements. So here are some examples of angles and their degree measurements. So in here we have like that. You can see that, right? And in here, this angle here, if you use your protractor, it would be like 45 degrees. And in here, right, and here, and so on and so on and so on. So there are like basic types of angles that we're going to learn today. So the first types of angles is what we call the acute angle. So remember this, that acute angle is an angle measuring between 0 and 90 degrees. So keep in mind that acute angle is between 0 and 90 degrees. So between 0 and 90 degrees, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so on. Maybe until 89. It can be, that is what we call acute angles. It can also be a decimal number like 89.5, right? As long as it's less than 90 and it's more than 0 degree, then we call it an acute angle. So the following angles are all acute angles. As you can see here, there are 6 angles here. And we see the first one is 18 degrees. 18 is more than 0, but it is less than 90 degrees, right? So we call this an acute angle. As for the same thing like this one here, 45 is bigger than 0 and less than 90, right? So it is an acute angle. The same thing with this one, more than 0, less than 90. This one is also more than 0 and less than 90. This one is also like that, and this is also like that. So it means that all of these angle is what we call the acute angle. The next types of angles is what we call the obtuse angle. So obtuse angle is an angle measuring between 90 degree and 180 degrees. So keep in mind that if I say between 90 and 180, it means that 90 and 180 degrees does not include. Okay, so the following angles are all obtuse, and here we have another 6 angles in here. And as we can see that this is 135, this is more than 90 and it's less than 180, right? So keep in mind that this is the most important information for you to classify what kind or what types of angle is this, okay? So in here we have 93 degrees, again it's more than 90 but less than 180. And this one is also like that, more than 90 but it's less than 180. And this is also like that, and this is also like that, and this is also like that. As you can see in this example here, it can be a decimal, guys. As long as it's more than 90 degrees, but it's less than 100 degrees and 180 degrees, then we call it an obtuse angle. Okay, the next one is a right angles. Okay, so the right angles is an angle measuring exactly 90 degrees. Okay, remember that it needs to be exactly 90 degrees. It cannot be more or less, like 90.001, right? It's 90, but it's not 90, right? Actually, it's more than 90, right? So exactly 90 degree is what we call the right angle. And as you can see here, we have two example here. So although we cannot see that is it really 90 or not, but we you should use like a protractor or some other tools to measure angles, whether it's 90 degrees or not. But if the information from is, let's say you have questions and then there's an information that stated that it is a right angle, that means that the size or the measurement of this angle is 90 degree. So most of the time you will see this sign here like this. If you see that this sign like this, it means that this is going to be 90 degree. Because most of the time, when you see angles, like let's say I have like this, and then most of the time they make it like this, right? They make like a curvy line, right? But this is not like two lines and then make it like a square, right? So if you see this symbol, it means that that is a right angle in which it is 90 degrees. The next one is the straight angle. So straight angle is actually just an angle in which it measures exactly, again, exactly 180 degrees. So if you can see that it's just like a straight line, right? So you put a point in the middle, somewhere in the middle, and then you measure that, it will be 180 degrees. So that's why we call it a straight angle. And the last one is a reflex angle. A reflex angle is an angle measuring more than 180 degrees. Previously, we know that 180 degrees, exactly 180 degrees is a straight angle. And here, if it's more than that, but it's less than 360, I'm going to add that information. More than 100 and less than 360 degrees, right? So it will, the name of the type of the angle is reflex angle. Okay, so be very careful, guys. If you see a questions and you're being asked what is the measurement or what type of angle it is, you need to see which one do they need you to answer. So actually, basically, these two rays have two angles, so which is this one here, right? And another one, which is this one here. So this one here is actually a acute angle because it's sorry, this is a obtuse angle. And this one here is a reflex angle. But if you see that there's an information about the measurement of the angle like this one here, you can just say, oh, this is more than 180 degrees, but it's less than 360 degrees. That's why we call this as a reflex angle. And so for this one here, it's more than 180 degrees, but less than 360, then we call it reflex angle. And here, it's more than 180, but less than 360, 255, which is also a reflex angle. So there you go. You have the five types of angle measurements. Uh, yeah, so there you go.